You can see more about how Fightin' Bob's legacy impacted not just Wisconsin, but the many parts of the nation through the Click and Explore um, thing. Pardon me. It's really important when I'm committing this video that I choose my words as meticulously and carefully as possible. So I'm happy to report I have decided to call this a thing. So consult the Click and Explore thing in section 21.2 of the OpenStax textbook to read more about Robert La Follette's legacy and how it still inspires progressives. the a running theme, especially through what we said about progressive reforms of city, is an appreciation of the value of knowledge and expertise on an evidence-based approach to how to conduct city affairs in that case, but the progressive respect for knowledge, science, education, and evidence extended beyond the governmental sphere and into the business sphere. Many progressive reformers were also committed to principles of making business more efficient and therefore more profitable by applying evidence-based, research-based, science-based concepts to the operation of factories and places of business. And Frederick Winslow Taylor is a major figure in this, and you can read about his ideas in his book, The Principles of Scientific Management, in section 21.2 of OpenStax. His approach wasn't always appreciated, though, because by focusing on increasing efficiency and productivity, this data-driven approach to business could sometimes be felt to ignore another less quantifiable aspect of business, and that's the human element. That the people actually doing the work in these factories and these other businesses are people, and you cannot reduce human beings to data, to numbers. A data-driven approach to any human endeavor, any human operation, if it's exclusively data-driven, is going to appear to many as rather soulless and inhumane, and you end up with workers doing more and more menial, repetitive, mind-numbing tasks over and over and over and over again, while the managers on the floor are sometimes literally timing them with stopwatches and mandating strict limits on the number of times that they can pee. And I know this is a different century, but people got to pee, and so many found this soul draining and dehumanizing. Though many workers did come to appreciate it, because as faceless as and dehumanizing as it might be, an increase in productivity does mean an increase in money, which can lead to higher pay. And we've seen the quality of life of many of the workers at the time. And when you're living in desperate situations, sometimes whatever it takes to make the extra nickel is considered worth it. For more on how progressives reformed business operations, again, see section 21.2 of the OpenStax textbook. Progressivism is most often associated with social justice. The progressives work toward social justice, toward making the life of the underprivileged, the poor, the oppressed classes of people somehow better, is what we generally associate with progressivism. In some cases, it was focused on those who suffer due to pervasive inequalities, such as African Americans and other ethnic groups. We know how how some of the immigrant groups were treated poorly, maybe just because of their foreignness and strangeness, or because they are considered competition for the longer-standing American residents for jobs, or because of anti-Catholic or anti-Jewish biases. In other reformers, the goal was to help those who were in desperate need due to circumstance, the immigrants from Southern and Eastern Europe, the working poor, and those with poor help. Women, as we talked about in the previous lesson, when we spoke about the settlement house movement and met Jane Addams of Hull House, women were often on the front lines, the vanguard of social justice reform. One of the areas in which reform from our perspective today was undeniably necessary was in the area of child labor. Child labor. One of those things that today makes us think, well, isn't this common sense? The National Child Labor Committee was formed in 1904, and they urged the passage of labor legislation to ban child labor in the industrial sector. In 1900, U.S. Census records indicated that 1 out of every 6 children between the ages of surely that's 15. Nope. 5 and 10 were working. A 50% increase over the previous decade. So they had a rather ingenious approach to how to generate public sympathy for the children workers, and public outrage against the businessmen who employed the children, and against the government who allowed this to continue. And that was similar to how Mr. Rees's How the Other Half Live sparked outrage against how people in the tenements were forced to live in such abysmal squalor. They brought in a photojournalist. Photojournalist Lewis Hine was employed to engage in a 10-year-long campaign to educate Americans through photography on the plight of the plight of children working in factories. And our next video will take a closer look at the extraordinarily important, vital, and influential work of Lewis Hine.